Alright guys, so today we're looking at some solar inverters. I kind of got the idea that maybe I need to upgrade some stuff that I got, make things a little simpler. Let me see if we can get this to focus a little bit better. Okay, so one of the first things I noticed is that Sun Gold has these new inverters out on Amazon, and normally I try to get stuff from Santan Solar because they're local and they have like a 1-year thing, but they dropped all their MPP solar stuff, they dropped all the Sun Gold stuff, all they're selling is EG4 stuff. But I was looking at this Sun Gold 10 kW 48 volt hybrid inverter, built-in 2 charge controllers, 5% off coupon, $1,690. And one thing that I don't like about having a very large all-in-one is if something goes wrong, well, that you're done. And so there's what they would call redundancy or whatever, you know, where you could have a couple small ones. I'm kind of more inclined to do that. That way you don't have all your eggs in one basket. But I was looking at these and I thought, well, that is really, really a good price for something that does that. It says it's UL compliant, but I mean, good luck getting this approved on any kind of deal. Basically, it ain't gonna happen. So they have that one, and then they have one that looks almost identical. That's an 8 kW. It's like $150 less. They all pretty much got the same type of interface on them. It's also got a 5% coupon, which it doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about $1,500, the 5% can add up quite a bit. And also, they charge you tax. So, if you get from Santan Solar, they don't charge tax because it's considered solar, and it's somehow they've got some kind of write-off on that. But Amazon, no. So they have these. I have a PAL MR kind of similar to this. So what I was thinking was, I was like, well, what if you bought 2 of these and paralleled them? There's $40 coupon for $488, so there's $448. They have a couple different ones. We have a 24 volt one. I don't know what this other one here is. I haven't seen this 32. It's probably interesting. I haven't seen it before. I don't. And it's actually cheaper. $469. One of them is probably the old one, and one's probably the new one. The one that I have is actually older than all of them, and it's over here. So this system here is all by itself. I have that. It's the thing about the old one is it only has like a 40 amp charge controller. So the 3,000 watt. Basically, you have 3,000 watt inverter with a 1,000 watt input, and that's just not going to keep up. So it's more of like, well, you're not going to use the full capacity of it. Anyway, I don't know, max PV input, 108 volts. That's very similar to what mine is limited to, and that's why it's $469. Because if we look at this one's probably different. Yeah, 450 volts. So what that means is that if you have regular residential panels, like 250 watt, 240 watt panels that are 37 volts, on the other one, you're not going to be able to really put more than like 2 of them in series. And so with this one at 450 volts, you could put 3 or 4 of them in series, and still be under that voltage limit. So you could be like 4 series, 2 parallel, 4 series, 4 parallel, whatever, you know. This one has an 80 amp charge controller, which means that that's good for about, oh geez, I don't know, between 2 and 3 kilowatt, I guess. So this is the better one to get for sure, for all that, for flexibility. But I don't think any of these POW MRs can be paralleled. And then you have the 5,000 watt, which is actually really reasonably priced. And to me, like, you know, being mostly poor all my life, it's easier for me to buy a $648 unit than it is for me to buy like the big, you know, $1,200 one. So like I can buy a little piece at a time. Now this one, I'm pretty sure I see the parallel plugs on it. It looks very similar to my unit I currently have over here. I have a MPP solar. You see the parallel connector. Now they don't make those anymore as far as I know, and they're only 2.4 kilowatt, and they have an 80 amp charge controller though. They also don't like go real high on the voltage, but it looks real similar to that unit. A lot of these are all made by a company called SRNE, and so they will make these for different companies, and they'll make them all a little bit different or whatever. But so I'm trying to see if we have the parallel ports or not. Let's see, parallel connectors. Okay, so yes. All right. So if you bought a couple of these, the problem with these is like the one I have is not anywhere near like what the MPP solar does. Like I can't set the timer on it. I can't do certain things. I can't share the load with the grid and solar at the same time. It's all or nothing, one or the other. So I don't know if these ones function like this either. But I could totally see getting 2 of these for 10 kW. I mean, buy one, try it out, buy another one. I wonder though if it doesn't come with the parallel kit. So, and then now you got to go to 48 volt. But so the other thing too is some of these other ones, well, when you buy the all-in-one, it at double without 2 small ones, it actually offers something called batteryless mode, and where you can actually run the unit without battery, and that's pretty neat. So so I was considering possibly 2 of these, but they don't offer the ability to run without a battery, and I need more batteries, which is, as you guys know, big money. I've got one 24 volt 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, which is amazing, but they're about $500 or $600 for the cheapest ones that you can usually find. And that one is all by itself on its own system, and I kind of like to keep it that way. And then I've got lead acid batteries for the other inverter, which need to be replaced. So to go to 48 volts, I'm gonna need another 2 batteries, about $1,000 in batteries. But the capacity is completely insane compared to lead acid. It's just like, it's nuts. So anyway, Palomar, I mean, like, I've had that one inverter for a while, so I know they're okay, but a lot of people have had problems with them. So now here's the Sun Gold. If you look, you see it kind of looks similar. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're all like, this is also the and so the, let me see, go back in here and see what the price was. It was $648 for their 5,000. And then, you know, we got Sun Gold with their 5,000, and it's $150 more. Parallel grid tie. Another thing too is, if you want 240 volts, there are certain ones that are capable of it and certain ones that are not. Certain ones that, if you parallel them, they're capable of it. So that's something you kind of got to think about ahead of time. Let's see. And there might even be some that only go up to 110 volts, because that's the voltage in another country. So if you can't, like, I think when I got the Palomar, it was set to 110 volts, but you can change it to 120. Some of them, though, you cannot, because they're not for the U.S. market. So certainly need to be careful with that. They have that one, and then they have their 24 volt 3000, which is 500. I think that's pretty reasonable for one of those. And if you have a smaller kind of array, now here's the EcoWorthy, and I don't know too much about them, but it looks absolutely identical to the unit that I have over here. If we look at it right now, it looks absolutely identical. So it's probably the same thing, and it's almost like the company, it's an interesting picture. It's almost like the, so it has a 60 amp MPPT. Mine has a 40, but it's almost like the company bought all the old leftovers. You know, it's just like, and a lot of these all have about 3.5 star reviews. None of them really are anywhere near 4. These could be good. They could be a pain in the ass. I mean, I don't know. This one here, the Renogy, has got really bad reviews. Which is kind of too bad, because I've seen it go on sale really cheap a few times. Now, Palomar has these ones here like this. And you gotta look careful. If it says 220 to 230, that's not US. I love to gripe about this when I hear the ham guys talking about 220 volts. It's like, we haven't been 220 volts in the United States in a really long time. But see, the difference is that in other countries, they have 220 volts, 230 volts, single phase. Or split phase. So each one of those 120 volt legs is 180 degrees out of phase with each other. Whereas in their country, they're both in phase. So certain things you probably could run on it, but you know, I mean, the way that it works here in the United States is you have 120 and 120 coming to your panel, and then like a ground and, you know, or neutral or whatever. So each leg has 120 volts, but it's 180 degrees out of phase with each other. And in the panel, if the device needs 240 volts, it just pulls one off of each leg, and then you're good to go. But these type of ones here can't be used without buying a really expensive device called an auto transformer. And there's some dangerous issues with that. So here is the 5,000 watt 48 volt AC 110 240 split phase inverter. I believe all by itself this thing is capable of that. Now this might actually be worth buying in the long run because you could buy two of them, and it looks like one of them is capable of 240 volts, which makes that really interesting because the inverters I'm running right now don't even do 5,000. It goes up to 500 volts DC, so you can, string together a few panels. 100 amp MPPT should probably be enough at 48 volts. So the only downside to this, I think, that I can think of would probably be you probably can't do batteryless. So they have this one here. Where's the kit? Okay, but it looks like they're probably going to charge you more. It's about 800, maybe a little less. They're charging you 15. So it probably says this here, but what you can't figure out without really reading the fine print is that it's only capable of 240 volts if you have two of them, probably. So the problem for me is there's just too much crap to choose from. 5,000 watts DC 48 volt hybrid solar inverter, single phase, split phase, 3-phase, 120, 208, 240 volt output, pure sine wave inverter. Just only two inverters are needed to output 240, 208 in split phase up to 100 10 kW. Built-in 100 amp MPPT solar charge controller. So anyway, yeah, you can't get 240 volts out of one of them. You need to get two of them. Peak Valley electric tariff. Through sectional charging discharge function, users can freely set the battery to discharge time of the mains charging time, blah blah blah. Okay, anyway, interesting stuff. Multiple protection, blah blah blah. So one of the important things, depending on how you set up your panels, is how much is the max PV input voltage, VOC. So 500 volts is kind of the standard of what you're going to see. You won't see much higher than that, but you will see definitely lower than that on a lot of the cheaper ones. So here's a switch on the side. So I don't know how well these perform as far as certain things, because like I said, I have the other one and it doesn't do what the green one does. So right now I have my inverter connected to the grid, I have my inverter connected to the solar and the batteries, and I'm running 2 air conditioning units. And if the solar is not enough to provide for the air conditioning units, the grid will assist the solar. Okay, and there's certain ways that this can be done, where you make one thing the priority, or solar could be the priority, battery could be the priority, grid could be the priority. With my PowerMR that I have, if you plug it into the grid and the solar is not enough to provide, it just cuts off the solar completely, and you're 100% using the grid to run your load. It will not do a hybrid kind of thing where you're using solar and the grid at the same time. So what I do is I don't have enough batteries on the green one, so it's constantly using the grid to share the load when, like right now, it's cloudy, and the solar isn't providing peak power. And to me, that's kind of like my way of grid tying without grid tying, because we can't feed back to the grid. It's not legal to do it here without a permit. And it's real easy for them to tell if you're feeding back into the grid with a grid tie inverter. Some people say, well, if you just keep your load above, if you never export to the grid. So yes, that's true. So like, let's say you're always drawing 5,000 watts and your solar's making like 2,000 watts. Yeah, you could grid tie 2,000 watts to the grid as long as you're drawing that. But the minute that you are not drawing that full load, if your solar dumps 2,000 watts into the grid and you have no load, now you just exported and you're rolling your meter backwards the other direction, and they know it. Okay? And the way they do it in Arizona, if you roll it backwards, it doesn't roll backwards. It's a smart meter, but it doesn't have their net metering or whatever unless you're in a contract with them, which requires a permitted solar installation. It's a whole complicated process. But if you backfeed into that thing and you don't have net metering, it actually just rolls it forward, okay? Not only do they know that you're feeding back, but it rolls it forward in their favor. So whatever you put back into the grid, they get it for free, and they actually charge you for it. It shows up on the meter as if you were drawing that much, not sending that much. So you really don't want to do that. But anyway, I don't know if these are capable of operating like some of the other ones are. And they have lots of different products. They have lots of bad reviews. And they have some good reviews. You know, I mean, this would be cool. With a $40 coupon, we'd be at $7.59. You know, it's pretty cheap for 5,000 watts. I mean, the 2.4K that I have right now is $700. So this is definitely cheaper. It's also 48 volt, and so wouldn't be able to use it until I get more batteries. So now they have these other ones like this, and this is European, 220, 230, 48 volt, 10.2 kW, 749. We can't use this. Then you have companies like this that are rebadging other stuff, Y&H, and these are usually sold by Amazon. They're not on this one, but Amazon sells certain things, and usually if Amazon is selling it and fulfilling it, it's probably okay. Because what happens is if they have too many returns, they just drop it. They won't buy it and sell it themselves anymore. Okay, so here's your 3,000 watt one, 450 volt. There's a coupon. I mean, like right now, like some of these are super cheap. And you can totally build out quite the system a little bit at a time. But I don't think these are parallel, and that's why they're a little bit cheaper. And then you have these ones, which look to be like the eco-worthy type. Just because it says it has a 60 amp charge controller in it, which I saw that was the specs on the other one. And then we have these here. Some guys on the DIY solar forum were talking about these, and I think a guy in the Caribbean or something ordered one and did a pretty thorough review on it. Okay, so these can't parallel, okay? But they can run batteryless. And you get 10 kW, 48 volt to 120 or 240. And then here's a different model. One thing I don't like about these is there aren't, I don't see model numbers on them. Okay, this is a different one. Which is got built-in 2 100 amp MPPT charge controllers. And some people have said, well, this is just 2 of the 5,000 watt units in one box. This one here is something different. For some reason, this one cannot be paralleled, and this one can. So I don't know a lot about those. And here's a new one that I haven't seen before. Looks like it's kind of like a waterproofy type of job. 10K built-in Wi-Fi, blah blah blah. That's just too much freaking money. So here's the Sun Gold. This is basically an MPP solar LV6548, basically. These are supposed to be pretty good, and the price is really nice on these. They will run battery-less, and so this has kind of been around for a while, and I think, you know, there's no real surprises on these as far as like how they perform. I think the display in the front is detachable from the unit. You can mount it somewhere else. They only do 120 volts. That's one of the downsides of them. But you need 2 of them if you want to do 240. Now you would be spending $2,700 for 13 kW if you bought 2 of them. So you kind of have to do the math on a lot of this stuff and determine, okay, which way is going to be the best way to do this. Because trust me, I've made all these mistakes. I've bought, you know, charge controllers that weren't future proof, so I'm stuck on a 24 volt system that I've invested into thousands of dollars because I've got 3 or 4 of this, 3 or 4 of that, and you can't do anything about it because if the thing's not capable. So this is a really good deal on this if you don't require anything more than 6.5 kW. If you want to run your whole house, you probably want 2 of these. 2 of these will probably run most houses. So, but you go up to, I go from 6.5 to like the 8 or the 10, and it costs a little bit more money than this, but it's capable of a lot of the same things and 240 volts. So I don't know that this is a good deal anymore. But at $11.50 with the coupon, it might be. I don't know. Trying to see if I can find the other thing again. This looks more like an RV thing. 2,000 watt solar inverter, 12 volt. That's a 12 volt one, and it's also European they Now I see these here, but I don't think they're delivered by Amazon, and that for me is a deal breaker. It's sold by Expert Power, shipped by Expert Power. It's quite cheap though, and it's a 6.5 kW, 48 volt. I don't know about that 120 amp charge controller. It's just like the Sun Gold we were just looking at, except for it's like even cheaper. The 2-pack. They don't really save anything. So if you spent $2,000 on these, you'd have 13 kW. Yeah, anyway, this is the same thing. Let's see, this one here is some other version, another 550. That's also European. It's kind of hard to sort through all this. Like, you end up seeing all this crap. Like, these are junk. Don't buy any of these stupid things. I have the Y&H. This is a 24 volt, 230. That's European. A lot of them on here are European. Gotta watch out. This one here, I don't know what this one is. 390 bucks. It looks kind of like the old. It looks like my MPP solar. A lot like it. Some of these you could get a really good deal. It might be a great inverter, or it might not be. It says 2400, but it has only a 50 amp charge controller. I've seen some that look like this that have a PWM. Yep, 50 amp PWM. And you don't want that. That'd be good for something like if you're just like at a cabin where you never use it and you need it to maintain security cameras or something like that. But PWM, whatever you put in, you're not going to get any gain out of it because it has to pulse width to regulate the voltage coming in. So an MPPT will lower your voltage and buck boost your amperage. PWM, the amperage will remain the same coming in, going out, and the voltage will drop. And also, it generates a ton of heat by doing that. Basically shuts itself off really fast a whole bunch of times, which also is really bad for ham radio. Of course, all of them are really bad for ham radio. 24 volt chins. I've seen the chins ones. See, these are just they're all just rebranded, okay? And so they all have slightly different specs. It's almost like building Legos, okay? I think the companies are allowed to, like, okay, choose your toppings on your pizza kind of thing, you know? Okay, I want this one, I want this. I don't want the 80 amp charge controller. We'll go with the 50 amp PWM. So this is a 24 volt, 3000. What is the output? Well, we really have to dig down to see. Okay, so this is 120 volts, 50 hertz. Unless you can change that, that could be a problem. 50, 60 hertz auto detection. Yeah. .7 out of 5. Reviews. Wow, this is great, simple to set up, blah blah blah. Great product for great price. Don't waste money. Operational questions. Poor customer support. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it's just such mixed reviews on most of these things. You just never know. There's a tiny one. European. So I guess probably the ones that I would be looking at would be, let's go in here, Sun. Wait, no, we'll back out of here. Let's see if we can just go to page 1. Let's see. Page 1. Okay. So 10,000 watts. So if you were to take 2 of the 6.5s, you would be, like I said, about $2,700. So I think what you're getting for this price here makes things a little bit simpler. It's all in one unit. You can do batteryless mode. It will do 120 volts or 240 volts, which is something that's kind of new for most of these. So I think the other one does the same thing also. So 8 kW. I think one of these would probably be the most realistic choice. If you want to run the other ones in pairs for redundancy and protection, in case one of them takes a shit, they still have one going. Like if you were completely off grid and you were worried about like protection, you know, like they do at like server data centers, you know, they RAID servers and all this stuff, and you know, backup batteries and backups to backups, you know, then this would probably not be the way to go, because if this goes down, you lose everything. So you kind of have to make a choice of how you want to build your system. But you could just buy that, hook it up, and be done. You know, as long as it works like it's supposed to, that'd probably be pretty good. So I don't know. That's kind of the one I'm leaning towards. And then I got to look up all the battery crap and figure out what's the best deal on batteries. And I think that, like, the reason I'm looking this up is because I think there's some weird stuff going on, and I think we're going to see some strange stuff after we saw this CrowdStrike thing. I think that they're getting ready to do something really weird, either globally or just in the United States. And if you're sitting on a ton of paper money, you might find yourself crying here in the new future. So it's my assumption that you probably should, if you have money saved, you should probably buy the things that you think you might need now while you can still buy it. Because they could end up pulling some kind of Venezuela type crap, and I'm sure they're going to try and do something really radical very soon, and they already have. They tried to assassinate a former president, and the story just keeps getting more and more interesting, like a Kennedy thing, whether this shooter, that shooter, oh, now all of a sudden there's this and that, and then, oh, by the way, we got Hillary, we got Kamala, we got this, we got that, and Joe Biden's gone, and this and that. Oh, by the way, Klaus Schwab stepped down from the World Economic Forum. By the way, Bill Gates is doing this, and BlackRock is doing this, and there is so much crap going on right now, and so much distraction from what's going on. And I'm telling you guys right now, you need to be concerned with what's going on, okay? If you are sitting on paper money, do something with it now while you have a chance, okay? Order the things that you need. If you have a crap load of money in the bank, order the things that you need, because there is no guarantee that you're going to be able to use that money in a year from now. There is no guarantee that they are not going to completely wipe out the entire banking system, lock down the country, and put us all on some crazy crap and say, well, the system is down and we can't do anything about it, and, you know, nobody can get gas, nobody can do this, nobody can do that, and they say, oh my God, we're gonna have to come in and do this we're gonna fix all this stuff, and then in the midst of the chaos, you're gonna find we're on a central banking currency of digital currency, and we're gonna be locked down just like China. So, you might think I'm nuts, but I hope I'm wrong. But I think that something weird's happening, and so that's kind of why I'm like telling people, get ready, prepare. Another thing too, start stockpiling canned goods. Maybe have some water bins, different things. You need to get prepared. So anyway, I'm going to get off my rant. I'm going to do some more research on these type of things here. I understand not everybody is in a position to be able to set up solar panels in their apartment or whatever, but for those of you that can, then, do it, because it's a lot of fun to play around with anyways. But, anyway, no affiliate links. I might put some in there later on, but I don't know anything about these products. I'll link like the two in there, but honestly, I don't know anything about any of these because I don't own them. So I don't want to be telling you to go buy it and then you go buy it and it's crap. So we'll catch you guys later.